Hello everyone, I'm Janae Stagel, President of Texas Votes. Texas Votes is a nonpartisan civic engagement organization here at UT. We're a voting family of political nerds who love pizza and politics, and we're devoted to registering, educating, and encouraging Longhorns to turn out to vote in every single election. We ate 1,000 slices of pizza this past year and also registered Longhorns to vote for over 1,000 hours within that same time period. We don't care who or what you vote for, just that you vote. And we're super psyched that you want to learn more about the process of voting and get a little bit more information.
Voting is a fundamental right, and it's one of the simplest ways to make your voice heard and influence the future of your local community, state, and the nation. If you're passionate about issues like education, healthcare, criminal justice reform, quality infrastructure, and the accountability of public officials, then more likely than not, one of the best ways to enact that change, which will reflect constituent values, is to vote. Even if you're passionately against something, voting is one of the most powerful ways to enact that change. In the fall, we have a general election in November. This election is not just the presidential races, but we'll also have state and local races as well, including state senator positions and the Travis County District Attorney. Remember that your vote matters in all of the races, not just the presidential one. We're going to go over important dates and deadlines for this election. It's important to note that these dates and deadlines are specific to Texas. So if you're trying to vote outside of Texas, all the dates except Election Day will be different. Be sure to search your state's name and important election dates to get the correct information for your state.
The first step of voting is voter registration. Not sure if you're registered to vote? Check with the Texas Secretary of State's website. Not sure where you should register to vote? As a college student, you can be registered at either your non-college residence or your college residence if they're different.
You can get registered to vote using a service called TurboVote. By going to texas.turbovote.org and filling out some basic information, you can receive a pre-filled voter registration form. Once you receive this, all you have to do is sign the bottom and mail it to your county's voter registrar using the given postage and address. Be sure to do this before the October 5th deadline, which is the last day to register to vote in Texas. As you can see, using TurboVote is very simple, but if you'd rather not, you can fill out a form at the Texas Secretary of State's website, print it, sign the bottom, affix postage, and then mail it to your county's voter registrar, whose address you can find at bit.ly/txeoc. If you don't have a printer, you can request to have a form mailed to you at the Texas Secretary of State's website. Once you receive this form, you still have to complete all of the previous steps in order to get registered. Whichever method you use, be sure to get your application in before the October 5th deadline.
Texas and many other states have early voting as an option to voters, which allows them to vote at a polling station before Election Day. Due to the current situation of the pandemic, we highly recommend voting early if you will be voting in person this fall. Early voting is typically 2 weeks long. Not only is it a larger window for you to get to the polls than Election Day, but it's also a great way to strategically avoid lines or contact with strangers. Early voting begins on October 13th, 2020 and runs until October 30th, 2020. Election Day, the final chance to vote in this election, is November 3rd, 2020.
Registered voters can see their options for polling locations and times at the Where is My Polling Place tab of votetexas.gov. We recommend early voting, and especially Sundays, for the shortest and safest voting experience. We again recommend planning with friends and family and bringing them to the polling place with you.
Don't forget to take a paper copy of your ballot selections with you when you go vote. You can print one of these out at vote411.org, or you can write it out yourself. Just know that you can't take your phone out when voting. Finally, be sure to take a valid photo ID with you. Commonly used ones in Texas include your Texas driver's license or a passport. And other valid forms include a military ID with a photo or a Texas personal ID card.
If you decide to vote by mail, also called absentee voting, you will have slightly different dates to keep in mind for this election. You must be registered by October 5th, 2020 in order to vote by mail or in person for this election. In order to vote by mail in Texas, you need to apply for it, and you must meet at least one of Texas's 4 eligibility requirements in order to vote by mail. Those eligibility requirements are: you must be 65 years old or older, disabled, out of the county in which you're registered to vote for, during the period of both early voting, which is October 13th to the 30th, and on election day, which is November 3rd, or in jail, but otherwise eligible to vote. This application to vote by mail must be received, not postmarked, by your county by October 23rd. Again, October 23rd is the date that your county must physically have your application in their office by, not the date that the application was postmarked for or sent in on. Once this occurs, the county will process your request, and if your voter application is approved, you will soon receive your ballot in the mail. This ballot must then be sent in and received by your county before Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020 at 7 p.m. or Wednesday, November 4th, 2020 at 5 p.m. if the carrier envelope is postmarked by 7 p.m. on Election Day. It is better to mail in your ballot applications and your ballots as soon as possible and to leave at least 1 week of buffer time before deadlines whenever possible.
Thank you so much for watching all of these videos. We hope that they helped you to become experts on this election, the process of voting in general, and being ready to be voting friends to everyone you know. If you have any questions at all about anything we covered, anything we didn't cover, voting questions in general, etc., please feel free to reach out to us. You can text our hotline at 512-814-5401, or you can feel free to reach out to us on any of our social media platforms. On Facebook, we're TX Votes. That's our Facebook page. On Twitter, we're at TX Votes. And on Instagram, we're at TX Votes _CEA.